Hello guys, welcome back to yet another video. My name is Yoshi and on this channel you can join me on a creative journey and cool series all related to photography and videography and much more. In this new series I'm going to share my knowledge about flying with drones and share some tips and tricks and things I learned along the way and things I didn't know before I bought my very first drone. But first it's time for a little intro and some b-roll. So if you're watching this video, then you're either interested in one of my new videos and you're already subscribed to my channel, or you're looking into buying your very first drone. Well, in this video I got you covered. But if you didn't subscribe already, please hit that subscribe button. It costs you nothing and it really helps me a lot to create this type of content for you guys. Drones have become immensely popular the past few years. Even the latest TV shows, your local TV shows for instance, are using those new drones and these little consumer drones for getting those new and fresh angles and perspectives. You may ask yourself why they become so popular. Well, in my opinion, people have always dreamt about flying like a bird and watching over the earth from the sky. I think this really helps to draw people into this hobby. And in this video I'm going to deal with several questions and explain to you what you need to consider and why you need to think about these questions before you consider buying your first drone. Why do you want or why do you need a drone? First of all, before you buy a drone, I highly recommend you do some deep research on the internet about the several things that are possible with drones and what type of drones that there are. And also think about why you want this drone, because it's a real investment and you need to be aware about several things before you consider buying a drone and make this step. So first of all, think carefully about why you need it. Do you make videos or photos as an amateur or as a professional? That's a really important factor that will help you decide what type of drone you need to invest into. Are you aware about all the different drone laws that are available and differ from country to country, and all the licenses, trainings you need before you can actually fly? And last but not least, are you aware about possible insurance that you need to get before you can fly without any concerns? Nonetheless, I will talk about all these things in this video and upcoming videos, but just think in general about what you want to achieve with your drone. Do you want to step up your photography and videography work as a professional filmmaker? Or do you want an extra gadget just because it's cool, and I can admit it really is cool? Or are you just an amateur who wants to get another new perspective? You can either buy a drone or you can invest in a much more versatile lens, for instance, or a more expensive camera. So keep in mind that this is just an extra tool and might not be the right tool you need for what you want to achieve with your photography or videography. So great, you are going to buy your very first drone. Well, of course you already know that it costs a tad bit of money. So you want to buy one drone and stick to that one for quite some time. And of course you want to pick the right one that suits what you want to achieve with your photography or videography. So you want to pick up the perfect drone that suits your needs. Well, I'm going to destroy that dream because the perfect drone doesn't exist. It always comes with some limitations, or it comes with or without features that you would like to have or not available with the drone you are going to buy. So keep in mind, the perfect drone does not exist. Even before you buy your first drone, I strongly suggest that you look up the local drone laws in your country, but also the local drone laws close to your house. Because if you're not able to fly with your drone close to your house, or you need to drive kilometers away from your house before you can even put the drone in the air, then you just won't start at all. Because droning requires a lot of practice. You need to practice before you can fly like the pros. So forget about it if you can't fly close to your house. If you really want to get into this hobby, you might be able to go to the special terrains where you are allowed to fly, but it's not the same. So keep in mind, if you need to put a lot of effort into going to a location that you are able to fly, then you won't be able to stick with this hobby. The drone will end up in one of your drawers or in your closet, and it will just catch some dust. And considering this is a really expensive hobby to start with, I strongly suggest you think twice before you buy. Based on your local drone laws, you might also check whether you need additional licenses and pass for certain exams before you can fly your drone. And also check whether you need extra insurances or not. But more about this in a different video. Drones are getting cheaper and cheaper and more available to the normal consumers. Basically, a simple and small drone costs the same amount of money as a normal DSLR or mirrorless camera these days. The enormous amounts of drones and types of drones out on the market aren't making it easier to pick the right one for your needs. I'm going to help you with a few questions in this video, and based on the answers you give to those questions, you might be able to pick the right one for you. So a first question I have is the following. You have to ask yourself whether you want to take photos, so still images with your drone, or film movies, epic movie shots like you see on those TV shows and on National Geographic, for instance. Now, if the answer is photography, then I strongly suggest you start by picking up one of the bigger drones, and I'm very sorry, but the bigger drones are the more expensive ones. And I'm talking about, for instance, the DJI Mavic Pro 2, or maybe Mavic Pro, or the brand new DJI Air 2S. Now, why these drones? Basically, the answer is really simple, because those drones have a 1-inch sensor, which is currently the biggest sensor available on the consumer drones. Of course, you can go to an Inspire type of drone, but these drones are prosumer and are really expensive, and not for people like us who like to travel and just occasionally fly around with a drone. So stick to those drones, because those have 20 megapixels as well. If you pick a smaller drone, that's absolutely fine as well, but just keep in mind that the sensor is way smaller. So way smaller sensor means at low light a lot of noise, and of course the number of pixels is way less as well. I believe most of the drones provided by DJI are around 12 megapixels versus the new Air 2S, which has around 48 megapixels. That's it with the drones who offer the best photo quality. Of course, you can still use a cheaper drone and play around with that one, but more about that later. There are two options when it comes down to filming with your drone. First of all, you need to think about the video resolutions you want to shoot with, but most drones these days shoot in 4K, so that shouldn't be any issue. The biggest difference is the difference between FPV drones and with the normal drones. Normal drones are drones that film horizontal shots and huge landscape shots, for instance. This type of aerial videography is what you can see on the television at most times. Now, if you want more action-packed videos, for instance, when the camera flies through narrow places and makes saltos and do loopings and things like that, then you are looking into buying an FPV drone. Now, FPV drones is an entirely different branch. It's way more difficult to fly with an FPV drone, especially if you build one by yourself. So those are things you really need to think about before you step into the hobby. And this brings me to the next question in this chapter, which is FPV or normal drone videography. Now, ask yourself, if you're not interested in fixing your drone, into building your drone, into soldering and into programming your drone and flying entirely manual, not to forget, think about the way you need to charge your batteries and control them every single time or balance them. If that's something you're absolutely not interested in, then just don't start with flying FPV drones, because those are a lot of things you need to keep in mind when flying FPV drones. If you're more the guy who wants to sporadically fly out a drone and simply just want to charge up some batteries, plug your phone into the controller and start flying, then just stick to the normal drones. It's absolutely fine, you can achieve huge things with those as well, but that's the main difference when it comes to either of the two drones. Also, don't forget, when you fly FPV, you need an additional GoPro or an action cam can fit the drone as well, or you won't be able to get any video footage at all. Look at it like this: if you want to fly FPV, you need to look for all the parts separately, build your own drone. Of course, there are pre-built drones, but you need a GoPro, you need goggles, you need a controller, you need a drone as well. You will crash a lot more versus a normal drone, and you need to control everything manually. If you want to build just a package and you want to be ready to fly, then you just buy a normal drone. Now, obviously, FPV drone footage looks way more cool in my opinion, but you can play around with the normal drone footage as well and get similar looking results. Of course, don't expect you will be able to make a looping with your normal drone, because then the props will just stop spinning and you will crash. There is one new addition to the new DJI family, which is the DJI FPV Combo. And basically, this is a consumer level FPV drone that really should help you out to get into FPV in a user-friendly way. Now, don't expect to get similar footage as the FPV race drones, because that's not the case. It's still an expensive drone, it's made from plastic, and in my opinion, I've been looking into getting into FPV as well, but it's not real FPV because it has a lot of limitations as well. The drone is quite large, so it's great as an entry-level FPV drone, but you won't be able to achieve the exact same results as with a real FPV drone. But it's a perfect way to get started when starting with FPV drones. If you're not interested in FPV, then stick to a normal drone. And still, the market for normal drones is really big. It's becoming bigger and bigger. Many more brands are making drones, so I strongly suggest you stick to the bigger brands. And I'm going to give you a few names and explain you why. So, bigger brands, I'm talking about DJI, Parrot for instance, but also Autel for instance. I don't know any other big brands, and correct me if I'm wrong. I know Sony is working on a drone as well. The AirPeak 2 might be a prosumer drone, but when it comes to consumer drones, just stick to DJI, Parrot or Autel. Most of the drones are already alright to fly and ready to go. They have a big community. It's in most cases downloading an app, installing the app, setting up a few settings on your phone, plug your phone in the controller, charge everything, and you are ready to go. But the most important thing, these brands work together with the government and they adapt their products based on the local drone laws. So, for instance, in the future here in Europe, you will need remote identification whenever you're flying with your drone. Now, DJI already introduced this in the app, so it's just a software update, and this makes it easy to adapt to the local drone laws, and you're all set for the new drone laws, and you are completely in order. That's one big thing. And also with these brands, flying is basically really easy. You drop all the controls and the drone will just stay in place because it flies on GPS. Not all cheaper drones will have all those safety measurements built in, and that's the big difference. So for instance, DJI also has obstacle avoidance and things like that. The cheaper brands might have a few of these settings, but not everything, and that's what the biggest difference is. Also, the large community built around the DJI drones is really great. You have the forums at DJI itself, but many people over on the internet and on YouTube are flying with DJI drones. So a large community means lots of people have knowledge and gear available whenever something breaks down. You might ask yourself, why is the weight of the drone important? Well, here in Europe, for instance, you need to pass certain exams and get certain licenses based on the weight and based on the risks you are having when flying a certain type of drone. So that's why you need to think about the weight of your drone, and this will have a major impact on what type of drone you will get and you will be able to buy based on what you want to do regarding the licenses you need. So from here onward, I'm not gonna talk about FPV and building your own drone because this is something completely different. Here in Europe, the rules for self-made drones are different than from the basically commercial drones. So forget about the drones you build by yourself. This is all about normal commercial drones. I also want to talk about the famous DJI Mini 1 and the DJI Mini 2 drone. Many people are thinking and believing that the DJI Mini 1 and 2, because they are weighing less than 250 grams, they basically weigh about 249 grams, which is perfect. And based on the European drone laws, you should think that they weigh less than 250 grams and are considered a toy drone. But nothing is true about that because the DJI Mini and the DJI Mini 2 have a built-in gimbal and camera. Based on these things, and this has to do with the GDPR, which is the privacy laws here in Europe, based on those laws, you still need to pass for an exam, which is the A1 and A3 examination you need to pass for. So you need a drone license for those type of drones, and you need to register yourself as a drone pilot as well. Here in Belgium, this is entirely free. You just need to follow the course online and pass for the examination and register yourself and get the right insurances, and you're ready to go with your Mini 1 and Mini 2. But don't think that because it weighs less than 250 grams that you're entirely free to fly everywhere where you are, because that's not true because of the camera. So don't forget that. So users of a Mini 1 and a Mini 2, get the drone license right now. So don't make this mistake and avoid that you need to pay huge fines when flying illegally. But the current European transition and the regulations of the drone laws, you can also fly with the original DJI Mavic Air 1, because this one weighs less than 800 grams. So with this drone you're still good to fly here as well. But more about that in a future video.
Oh, hello guys. I know it's been a long time since you've seen me, and I know I've skipped some in-frame Sunday shoutouts. Now, I promise you, soon I will be back with those shoutouts. But for now, don't you think this video has become way too long already? So I guess we should end it here and continue next week. So all I need to say to you is I hope you liked this video. If you learned something new, please hit a thumbs up. If you didn't already, please subscribe, and just remember, you don't need to be great to start, but start to become great. See you in the next one. Bye!